All right, it's your boy Big Rich. Buenasera. How you doing? Good evening. Live from the streets of New York City, Queens. You know, the city that never sleeps. And if you don't sleep, that means, you could pay me some money. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's get right down to business. All right, straight from Gangland, written by Jerry Capisci. This wise guy didn't sing, but he sure did blab. He'll have to fight his big mouth at trial. If he goes to trial for the gangland-style slaying of former Purple Gang leader Michael Meldish, Luchese crime family member Christopher Londonio will face at least one truly tough witness, his own voice. Minke with another recording. The feds are geared up to play dozens of tapes in which the 45-year-old mobster is heard blabbing blab, 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 away about crime, family, business. Those on the other end of the conversation when the tape was rolling include wire-wearing mob turncoats, FBI wiretaps, and prison phone recordings. Yeah, they tell you that they will record your conversations in prison. Believe it, they record everything. Also in historic Gangland First, there is one conversation in which Londonio bizarrely talks to himself after calling his own answering machine from a jailhouse phone. What's that about? The potentially crucial role those tapes could play at trial had become painfully clear during recent plea negotiations involving the four remaining defendants in the 2013 murder case. 2 weeks ago, Luchese capo Stevie Jr. Crea, the son of the powerhouse underboss Stevie Wonder Crea, copped a plea deal and agreed to take a hefty 13 years behind bars rather than take his chance at trial. That left Crea's dad, along with former acting boss Matty Madonna, Londonia, and alleged shooter Terrence Terry Caldwell. If the foursome go to trial, Londonio's tape recorded talks with cooperating witnesses and others in the case will play a prominent role. On the recordings, he's heard admitting to committing or conspiring to commit drug dealing, extortion, loan sharking, robbery, home invasions, and assault. Virtually every other violent crime contained in the racketeering indictment, according to recent government filings. Sources say that in plea discussions, since Stevie Jr.'s guilty plea, prosecutors have offered to give Londonio a deal calling for a prison term of 30 years. But that's only if Stevie Wonder Crea and Madonna also agreed to a so-called global plea deal. I'll say it again. Global plea deal. I'm assuming they all got to take a plea in order for one of them to get the plea. Such a settlement would mean virtual life sentences for Crea, who is 72, and Madonna, who is 83. So they would absolutely die in jail if they took the plea for 30 years. At least them two. Madonna may make it, The sources say that Londonio have tentatively agreed to take the deal, but that so far nothing has been worked out with Crea, who has spent about 4 years behind bars in his long career, or Madonna, who did 20 years for a 1970s heroin conviction. Dope. Sources say prosecutors have offered Crea 18 years and Madonna 20 years. Big numbers for the geezer gangsters to swallow. Even with time already served and the normal federal prison good time, that would mean a dozen or so more years behind bars for Stevie Wonder and about 15 more for Madonna. So that's 84. Stephen Crea would get out around 84, and Madonna would be 98. Yeah, you're not going to make it. You know what I'm saying? Interestingly, sources say prosecutors have so far excluded Caldwell, the African-American mob associate who allegedly shot Meldish once in the back of his head while sitting next to him in a car parked in the Throgs Neck section of the Bronx, BX Stand Up, on November 15, 2013, from having to be part of the global plea deal. After firing the fatal shot, prosecutors say that Caldwell was picked up by Londonio and driven away from the murder scene. Caldwell, 61, an alleged member of the racketeering conspiracy, is also charged with the shooting of Bonanno mobster Enzo the Baker Stagno 6 months before he allegedly killed Meldish as the Bonanno soldier was sitting in a car at the corner of 111th Street and 1st Avenue in East Harlem. Harlem, stand up. Sources say Caldwell rejected an original plea offer of 30 years and hasn't taken part in any follow-up discussions. Prosecutors and lawyers for Londonio, Madonna, and Crea have continued to discuss a possible resolution of the case, but sources say the talks have been fruitless thus far. Even though the public posture of lawyers for Londonio, Madonna, and Stevie Wonder is we're preparing for trial, sources say prosecutors and attorneys for the three mobsters haven't closed the book yet on coming together on a possible plea deal in the case, which is slated to go on trial October 2nd. It's right around the corner. Defendants have an ominous date for their next hearing, Friday, September 13th. That's when they're scheduled to appear for the final pretrial conference before White Plains Federal Court Judge Kathy Seibel, and when the next shoe could drop in the plea negotiation process. Most agree that prosecutors will force Londonio to go on trial or plead guilty to the entire indictment if Stevie Wonder Crea decides to take his chances at trial. In court papers filed last month, prosecutors Hagen Scotton, Alexandra Rothman, and Celia Cohen alerted defense lawyers of many numerous tape talks they planned to play at trial in order to establish that Londonio was a viable and violent member of the Luchese crime family who toiled under Madonna and Crea. In an August 28 filing, the prosecutors wrote they intend to play several taped telephone conversations Londonio had with longtime Luchese associate turned informant Joseph Fati in 2012 and two face-to-face talks they had in 2013, one before the Meldish murder and one after the killing. Sources say that Fati, 67, never got Londonio, whom prosecutors say was inducted into the crime family in 2013, to admit any involvement in the Meldish rubout. But he did get Londonio to talk about extortion, loan sharking, gambling, home invasion, and kidnapping escapades he either committed or was planning. Like Fati, mob turncoat Frank Pasquale III, and the both of them get a disgracia. The drug-abusing gangster who once wrongly fingered his mobster father for the Meldish hit was unable to get Londonio to admit any role in the Meldish rubout. But prosecutors assert that Pasquale got him talking about a slew of other crimes he allegedly committed. On November 24, 2016, they wrote Londonio discussed the beating of Tommy Garbage, a 63-year-old Bonanno associate, a.k.a. Thomas Minervino, whom Londonio allegedly assaulted along with Meldish a few years before. Londonio allegedly was part of the hit team that killed Meldish on the orders of his Luchese superiors. In two other talks with Pasquale, according to the feds, Londonio detailed the structures of the Luchese family, including his role and those of the Creas and Madonna. And in one of those conversations, Londonio is heard asking Pasquale to administer beatings to two victims who had earned his anger for one reason or another. The prosecutors also plan to play 13 telephone calls in which Londonio was heard discussing gangster business with a number of unidentified persons on his cell phone in 2012, when he was still a wannabe wise guy. They also will play calls he made from May 31st to July 10 of 2017 from the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn to his mom, to Pasquale, to Meldish's sister-in-law, and to his former attorney, Robert Blossner. The feds don't detail the subject matter of those calls, but they argued that all the taped talks, as well as many statements from other witnesses they cite, will establish important criminal aspects of the racketeering enterprise and the roles that Londonio and his co-defendants play in it as members of the Luchese crime family. The taped recorded conversations include a difficult to fathom incident in which Londonio tape recorded a talk with himself. The fuck is that? What is that about? He called up his own answering machine and left a message for himself. Yeah, all right. The prosecutors wrote that the intriguing conversation took place in a phone call Londonio made on the morning of November 11, 2014, to his own voicemail account from a local city jail. Londonio likely made the call from Rikers Island, since it was made a little more than 2 days after he was arrested and jailed on state gun charges in the Northeast Bronx. According to state and federal court records, police arrested Londonio at about 9 p.m. on November 8, 2014, after cops found a mini arsenal of guns along with more than 100 rounds of ammunition in a car Londonio and two cronies were sitting in that was parked at the corner of Watt Avenue and Bayshore Avenue in the Pelham Bay County Club section. The state gun charges were eventually dropped, but 6 months later, on May 10, 2015, while they were still pending and Londonio was free on bail, FBI agent Theodore Otto arrested Londonio on more serious federal weapon charges. He was detained as a dangerous felon who was a suspect in the Meldish homicide, and he's been behind bars in one prison or another ever since. The findings give no details about the substance of the call, and prosecutors and Londonio's attorney, John Maringallo and Louis Freeman, declined to talk about it. Perhaps he merely wanted to remind himself to tell his mob superiors about his arrest or rant about his cronies. Whatever it was, prosecutors say that it has bearing on Londonio's status as a member of the Luchese family, and they intend to play it at his trial, if and when it takes place. If that happens, the gangster will have no one to glare at but himself. Can you imagine if they use a recording that he called himself and he says some stupid shit and they use it against him? That shit is fucking crazy. Stay away from the fucking electronics, all right? All right? And salute to Jerry Capisci. Great article, all right? All right? Stay tuned for more articles. I'm losing my fucking voice here. Stay tuned for more articles. I'll try to get one more up tonight, and we'll do one more in the morning. And don't forget, the morning show is tomorrow, right? Like, comment, share, subscribe. You got the Cash App right there, PayPal right there. Bless this platform. Help us continue. Throw us a donation. Salute.